Shalom, shalom. My name is Dana Yehuda.
Shalom, shalom. This is Derek Yahoo. Today we're going to be talking about the Sabbath day, part one. Yes, part one. Uh, we're going to get into the Sabbath and the way we observe it according to Scripture, and also what we don't do. That's what we'll get into today. So, first question I'll ask, and I know it's basic, why do people keep Sunday? And upon saying that, we can go to Daniel 7:25, and we'll go to it.
So, Daniel chapter 7, verses 25 says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws."
So, reading that and seeing that, the best question to ask when reading that is, who was the he in that? And what laws did he think to change?
And when you think about the he, you'll have to go back and read some of Daniel's visions and dreams. And the Most High gave him a dream about beasts, and these beasts would conquer the earth, and the beasts were nations of people. And this specific nation that thought to change times and laws was the Roman Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And the law that they thought to change was, or not thought, did change the Sabbath day. They changed the Sabbath day, and they moved it to Sunday. But we'll let the sources tell. So upon seeing that, um, we see that the Roman Catholic Church uh, made everybody keep Sunday worship, and so that's why Christians keep it today. That's why a lot of different religious sects keep it today, not knowing that they are just replicating what the Catholic Church instituted. So this is why we do not observe Sunday worship, and we will never observe Sunday worship because we believe the Sabbath day to be over.
now, most people who come into this way of the truth or come into this way of knowledge of life and understands that, okay, now we know we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. So what happen is they'll keep the Sabbath, we'll begin to keep the Sabbath, but most people will say, oh, well, it starts at the evening or starts at sunset on Friday night. Well, this is why we don't observe it sunset Friday night. We don't observe it that way based off of scripture. So we will go to Genesis 1 and have to see now, when does the day begin? When does a day begin according to the scriptures? And before we go to Genesis 1, first we'll just read a couple words with you guys to get a basic understanding on the words that the Most High used in Genesis 1.
So before we do that, we're gonna get into the definition.
So the first definition would be darkness. And darkness is Strong's number H2822. Strong's H2822. And the word is koshek. Kochek. And it goes down to say word origin from kashak. Kashak. Definition: darkness, obscurity. Darkness, obscurity.
And the next word we'll get into is light. It's H216. The word is or. And then it's to be light or bright. The light from the sun, moon, stars, fire, candle, or other givers of light. It comes from the root word ar, and the definition would be boxes are used to store items and keep them in order. Light is also necessary for order. So we see right there, light is necessary for order. Light is order. It starts the order. So when we get into Genesis, we will see what the order starts.
So the next word that we'll touch on to make sure that we get a deeper understanding on is the word night. you'll see night in Genesis 1. So it is Strong's number H3915. Excuse me. H3915. And the word is Lail. Lail. And it means night. Night as opposed to day. So the opposite of the daytime. Of gloom, protective shadow, a twist away of the light. Night, figuratively, adversity, midnight season.
Okay, so the next word we'll be getting into as well is Strong's 3117 is day. The Hebrew word for day would be yom. And it's day, time, year, day as opposed to night. Day, 24-hour period, as defined by the evening, morning in Genesis 1. It says a couple temporal references will be today, yesterday, and tomorrow.
Okay, so it's two more words. We're not trying to overload y'all with words, but these last two words that we make sure, and they probably are the most important words that we want to touch on today, according to reading Genesis 1. So it is the word morning, and in Hebrew it would be boker, and that is Strong's number H1242. Again, Strong's H1242, and that is boker. It means morning, break of day, morning, of end of night. So of end of night, of coming of daylight, of coming of sunrise, of beginning of day, of bright joy after night of distress. Morrow, so when you see the scriptures, it may say morrow sometimes. That means the next day. It means in the morning time. So morrow, next day, next morning.
And so the next word we'll be breaking down is evening. And that's H6153, and it's Erev. And it's evening, night, sunset, evening, sunset, night. So it means to grow dark. That's what it means to grow dark.
To grow dark. So remember that. To grow dark. Remember that.
Grow dark.
Okay, so now we can get into Genesis 1. We can start reading Genesis 1. So we're going to go to Genesis 1, starting at verse 1. Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 1.
So it says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness. Now remember that word darkness when we go back, it says obscurity. So, and it says was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, let there be light. We see right there, this is the first thing he created. Light, order. And there was light. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. So when we see that, we see the light established the order.
Exactly.
Light established the order. And so that was the first thing he created, because he said he saw it and it was good.
Exactly.
So if we say he saw it and it was good, if you go through the rest of the chapter, you see everything he created. He saw that it was good.
So keep that in your toolbox when you go to read Genesis 1.
So verse 4, it was 5.
And it says, I'll read it. It says, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So he called the light Yom, and he called the darkness he called Lail. And evening and morning were the first day. So let's go back to evening. The word evening, where was it? It was to grow dark. So let's insert that. And also morning was to grow light. So let's insert those definitions in here. And the evening, or when it began to grow dark, and in the morning, when it began to grow light, were the first day. So let's paint that picture. So you had darkness and obscurity. Nothing was there. So then you had the Most High come in and cut the light on.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same concept you can use when you're moving into a house. When you're moving into an empty house, how can you move your things and how can you set the house up if there is no light? Right? No electricity. The first thing you do is you call OG&E and cut the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
So the Most High cut the lights on. That's the first step he did.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were going to start with night, why would the Most High start when it began to, when he wouldn't be able to see anything?
Mm-hmm.
Why would we start a day when he wouldn't be able to see anything?
Yeah.
So, but we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
So, what the rest five?
Yeah, I just read 5.
Okay. So, it says, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. We're going back to verse 5. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So it says, the evening and the morning can't be the first day. It can't be.
Uh-huh.
Our day does not just consist of evenings and mornings. That's not,
Exactly.
that does not, we can't do that.
Exactly. And Yom can also mean a 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
So a day, Yom, day,
Mm-hmm.
Yom, so we'll be instituting the Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
So a day is a whole 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also be a 12-hour period. So what we'll go into is you'll have day,
Mm-hmm.
you got evening, because in Genesis 1 it said, then it came to be evening. So he had to go through the day and it started to grow dark.
Mm-hmm.
Evening came, then night. What comes after evening? Because we'll just read evening and morning, but okay, that's it. Evening and morning. What's in between evening and the morning? What's in between that? It's something in between that. It didn't just jump to evening and jump to morning. We gotta use our logic when we read it.
And even in creation, it didn't just start out evening. It can't. It just can't happen. It just can't happen. Like you have to. That's what we do have to be logical when we do read the scriptures. In some instances, because you can miss something and misinterpret something.
Exactly.
So John 11:9, we're gonna go there, and it says, Yahushua answered, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world." So we see that Yeshua. We see the words of Yeshua.
So I want to read just an extra excerpt. It is Psalms 144. I believe Psalms 144. Is it 144? Oh, Psalms 104. I'm sorry. Psalms 104.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of give, because since we own creation, we know that the Most High said he made man in his image.
Mm-hmm.
In his image. So if he made man in his image, why would he have us do something opposite of what he did do?
Yeah.
So we'll go to Psalms 104. Psalms 104 verses 20. Psalms 104 verses 20. And it says, thou makest darkness and it is night.
Mm-hmm.
We just read that. Thou makest darkness and it is night, wherein all the beasts do creep forth. So when we read the word of the Most High, we have to correlate it to life itself. This is the word of life. So we'll watch Animal Planet, and they'll have those lights shining through the night, watching all the beasts do creep forth. It says the young lions roar. It says the young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from Elohim. It says the sun ariseth, they gather themselves together and lay them down in their dens. So at night, the beast is creeping forth. The animals are gathering their food. As the sun arises, they gather themselves together to go lay down in their dens. This is what the word of the Most High said. And then it says in verse 23, man goes forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening.
Mm-hmm.
What does evening mean? Evening was erev, right? It means to grow dark. So we're on the sun arises, and all the beasts gather themselves together, but also man goes forth to do his work and his labor until it begins to grow dark. So we'll see the same pattern the Most High did in Genesis 1. He worked during the day, and then it said, then came evening, so it began to grow dark. Then it began to grow light. That's day 1. Now, when it grew light, now he started working. He started working, and then it began to grow evening, and then it began to grow light. That's this day 2. So you have to insert the words in there in order to be able to see what it is that we're supposed to do as humans. So we can keep moving.
So we're gonna keep reading through Genesis 1, but we're gonna skip through. So it says, just follow carefully. It says, and Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. It says, and Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And Elohim called the firmament heaven. And evening it grew dark, and in the morning it grew light. Were the second day.
Exactly.
And then Elohim worked on the land. And the evening and morning were the third day. So we just jumping through. So when we see verse 14, it says, and Elohim worked on the sun, moon, and stars. And you jump down to 19. And evening and morning were the fourth day. So we see he worked on the sun, moon, and stars on the fourth day. So this means, evening came and then morning came again. That was so in between that it's night. Go through creation.
And Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And the firmament, and Elohim called the firmament heaven. And the evening, or it began to grow dark, and the morning, when it began to grow light, was the second day.
And so we see right there, he created, well, not created, but he separated the water from the waters, and he created the heavens. So we see right there where he did all that work, and then came the evening, it grew dark. And then it was like a period of nighttime. Then it grew light, morning.
Yes.
And then that day was over.
That day was over. It was beginning of the new day. So then when you get on verse 9, he started working on the land. He gathered all the waters together. He had the earth appear. And he also started growing grass on the ground. He was working. He was working. And then on 13 it says, and the evening when it began to grow dark, and then nighttime, and it began to grow light, that day was ceased. This was the next day. But we can see the consistency of when it began to grow dark, he ceased from working. Just like we just read in Psalms 104, when it said man goes forth to do his labor, his work and his labor in the day, or he goes forth into the evening until it began to grow dark. And then it was night, and then it was morning. They do it all over again. This is the same way that the Most High Yah set the order up in the beginning. So when we come and we'll say, oh, I observe the Sabbath at sunset, or a day begins at sunset, we have to go back to Genesis 1. Because this is the scripture that most people who observe it this way, this is what they go to. They go to Genesis 1.
And also we have to see that evening and morning are just separated. They separate the day and the night.
Exactly.
So you can't start a day in the evening and it's going into night and it was never day. You
Exactly.
can't just start it with evening and it's no day, because how did it grow dark? It was already dark.
Exactly.
We have to ask ourselves these questions. So,
and another question we can ask ourselves is if 104, Psalms 104, when he set that order, because that's scripture, they didn't just think of that. When David wrote that, he wasn't just thinking of anything. So when he said this, and it said that until the evening, they worked and do their labor until the evening till it began to grow dark. We have to understand, okay, they were getting ready to close out the day. They were ceasing from their work. They were probably going home and resting and getting ready to go to bed. So why would we, as our internal clocks, some people do work overnight, so this is not towards them, but at the end of the day, our internal clock tells us when it begins to grow dark, we get sleepy. It's time to go to bed. So our logic, he wouldn't start a day when we get tired and we get sleepy and now we got to go to sleep. I mean, what would be the purpose of it? So we keep moving.
verse 14. And Elohim worked on the sun, moon, stars, and then jump down to verse 19. And the evening it grew dark, and then you have the night period.
We are just paraphrasing. We just skipping through it so we don't have to go through and read the whole thing. So
just to conserve a little time. It says, and it was the night, and then it grew morning. It grew light. Were the fourth day. So during that fourth day, he was creating the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the, heavenly host. That's what he was creating on the fourth day. So now, going into 16.
Elohim made the two great lights. The greater light was to govern the day, and the lesser light was to govern the night. He made the stars also. Elohim placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth.
And so the reason I said go back up to 16, because I want to emphasize, why would he start the day with a lesser light? That would not make any sense. It would not make any sense at all. Go up 20.
Down to verse 20. And Elohim worked on the waters and the sea creatures. And
23.
Verse 23 is when he says, in the evening and the morning were the fifth day.
So he created the waters and the sea creatures. He worked on the waters and the sea creatures, and on the fifth day. Then the evening came, it grew dark, and you have the night period. And then morning came. That was that day 5 was over with. It was no more day 5.
So now he starts back working on the next day.
Exactly.
And that's where mankind, he starts working on man and creatures and things like that. He's working, he's doing something. And then it began to grow dark again, and then it be nighttime, and it began to grow light again. So
go to 31.
So verse 31, it says, this is the emphasis, and Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Remember, we said, if it says he saw that it was good, he created something. Something was not there before, and it was good. And the evening, so it began to grow dark, and the nighttime, and it began to grow morning, or began to grow light, were the sixth day. So now we pop up on the seventh day.
Let's take a look at that. Genesis chapter 2. We're gonna take a look.
Genesis chapter 2.
Okay, the establishment of the Sabbath day.
Okay, it says, start at verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the Sabbath day, Elohim ended his work which he had made. Hold on. So this day, after it began, when we just read in verse 31, in chapter 1, it said in evening, it began to grow dark, and it began to grow morning. That was the sixth day. So now we are on that day. We on the next day now. And he said there, he said he ended from all his work. That means he was working in that day portion like he was all the other 6 days. But on this day, he wasn't. Something different about this day. After he said it came to be morning, after that 6th day, it's something different here. It's something different. It says, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made.
And so we see that everything he created was work. That was work he was doing.
Yep.
So let's go back to, well, we don't have to go back, but you can reference and go back to Psalms 104 and see that he has made us after his image, because we go out and work in the day
until the evening.
Until the evening, just like he did.
In verses 4, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that Yahuwah had made the earth and the heavens. So, notice he was only working during the day though. It was only that 12-hour portion. Only a 12-hour portion he was working.
And he always rested during the night.
Always. So, we'll go to the next day.
So, we're gonna now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, okay, so what about the scriptures? Of course, Genesis 1, that's the scripture that most people go to. And then Leviticus 23, we go to that.
Yeah, they'll be like, what about Leviticus 23?
23?
Isn't this how he said keep the Sabbath? Because in it, he said observe these Sabbaths at this appointed time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to it.
So
let's go
Leviticus
to it.
23 and Nehemiah 13 is the scriptures that majority of people go to when they keep evening to evening to not to even justify, it's just to understand that they get when they read.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna start at Leviticus 23. We're gonna start at verses 4. We're gonna start at verse 4. He said, "These are the feasts of Yahuwah, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons." Now this is Leviticus 23, starting at verses 4. Now I'm gonna start at verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at evening is Yahuwah's Passover. So let's reread that. On the 14th day at evening is Yahuwah's Passover. So people be like, okay, well, so that's when the day start, right? So let's keep reading. And on the 15th day of the 7th month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahuwah. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. So he said 7 days. Remember that. 7 days we must eat unleavened bread. The first day ye shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah 7 days. And the 7th day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back because I'm getting a little too ahead of myself.
So yeah. So we see in that 7 days.
Yep.
7 days.
7
He
days.
said to keep Passover and unleavened bread.
So what was the dates? For the 14th day?
And then he said on the 15th day you'll be keeping unleavened bread. But what people fail to realize is when he says the 14th day, starting the feast of Passover, at 14th day at evening, is not saying that's when the day started at 14 on the 14th, because the whole cycle would be off.
Exactly.
So you would have to look And this is what you do when you reach. This is what I did to get to understand. You have to draw this thing out. You got to draw this thing out. You got to go back to kindergarten and use some of those skills we learned. And you got to really parse through this thing and really gather all the scriptures talking about Passover and unleavened bread. And you'll get to understand it, because when you gather them, you see that Passover and unleavened bread starts on the same day. Because Passover starts at the evening. It doesn't say the day started. The day still started in the morning. It says at the evening is the Passover.
On the 14th day at the evening. So the day didn't start at evening. The feast started at the evening.
So yes,
the day didn't start at the evening, but the feast started at the evening.
Exactly.
We gotta keep that in our minds.
Yes.
The day did not start at the evening time. It started in the morning time, but the feast started in the evening time. So
to get that understanding that they start on the same day, because I know it sounds like we just talking. So we're gonna go to Exodus chapter 12.
Exodus chapter 12.
And then we're gonna read that, and we're gonna go in precept. So Exodus chapter 12, and we're gonna start at verse 18. So he says, it says, we'll just start at 17. It says, and you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread.
You sure you don't want to start at 14?
Okay, we can.
We should start at 14.
Okay. It says, in this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast of Yah throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. So the feast you keep it at evening, like we said, not the day.
Start the day.
This is not saying the day starts at that time. It's saying the feast starts at that time. Forever in ordinance. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day shall you put leaven out of your house. The first day. On the 14th day of it, you got to put the leaven out of your house. It says, for whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the selfsame day I have brought your enemies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, when he says on the 14th day at evening, meaning it started in the morning, we're coming to the evening now. This is when we start the Passover. But it says right here, the unleavened bread, because we're supposed to observe the unleavened bread 7 days.
7 days.
So it says, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 20th day of the month, the 21st day. So we all can count, 7, 14, 21. It starts on the 14th day at evening, and then we go all the way 7 days later.
21st.
On the 21st day at evening. At evening. That's.
So if I was to start my day, let's say I wanted to start my day and I said I wanted to fast for a week. And I had to do this certain fast, and I started the fast at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. on Monday. Or let's say I started 3 p.m. on Sunday. Sunday I started at 3 p.m. If I count 7 days, when would I end my feast? Would I end my feast at this? I would go Sunday at 3 p.m. I go Monday at 3 p.m. It's 2 days. Wednesday at 3 p.m. Hold on. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 3 p.m. Friday at 3 p.m., Saturday at 3 p.m. That'll bring me back to 7 on Sunday. So let's go. Let's just count real quick. Sunday at 3 p.m. we starting off. Then you got Monday at 3 p.m., Tuesday at 3 p.m., Wednesday at 3 p.m., Thursday at 3 p.m., Friday at 3 p.m., Saturday at 3 p.m. And now I'm on Sunday. I'm back on Sunday. I would have to end it at 3 p.m. in order for it to be a complete 7 days. Let's say if I wanted to end it 7 on Sunday in the morning time at 9 a.m., would that be a full 7 days? No, it would not be. It would not be a full 7 days if I ended it at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. So let's go into the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement, let's go Leviticus 23, start at verse 26. And we'll see that a day didn't start at the evening, but this specific observation started at the evening. See what I'm saying? At the going down of the sun. So let's start reading. Leviticus 23, verse 26.
Okay, so Leviticus 23, verse 26, it says, And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, Also in the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yah. And you shall do no work in that same day. It is the Day of Atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yah, your Elohim. Whatsoever soul it be that shall not afflict it in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul shall do any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among the people. You should do no manner of work. It should be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. It shall be unto you Sabbath of rest, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening unto evening.
Whoa. Shall
you celebrate your Sabbath?
Whoa, so this is a Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling us to celebrate it on the 9th day.
Uh-huh.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, start it.
Okay, because he's telling us when is the Day of Atonement?
It's like that.
It starts on the 10th day. The Day of Atonement starts on the 10th day. The 10th day. So let's see how we would observe this if we were observing it starting our days beginning from evening to evening.
Mm-hmm.
So if my day started at the evening, I would go in from the 9th day, right? So at evening, because this is where my day begins, I go through evening, I go through the night, and then now the sun is coming out. So now I gotta finish my day at the evening, right? Because that's when that's when the day, the 9th day is. Because the 10th day will begin at the evening, right? If I'm observing it from evening to evening, my days.
Yes.
My days started at that time. It will start on the 10th day at evening. So then I gotta go to observe the 10th day. I gotta go all the way through the night, and now I gotta go to the 11th day in order to get. So that's 2 days. That's 48 hours if you fasted. But he just said 1 day.
And also, if this is how we normally kept a day, he would have never said this.
He would have never said it.
He would have never told us to keep it evening to evening. You should celebrate this Sabbath. So
let's first off let's go back and let's see in verses, what is it? Verses 27. Verses 27. It says, on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. So they had to fast.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go down to verse 32, and it says, and it shall be a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening. It never told us on the 10th day that we started evening. It just said the 10th day. On the 10th day. and you end it at the evening. This is what it's saying. So now we can look at it. We'll read it all summed up together. So on the ninth day at even is when we start fasting. It's when you begin to afflict in your soul. And so then, as the evening comes, as it begins to grow dark, night comes, right? Then the morning comes. It's the 10th day. So on the 10th day, I'm fasting, but always keep in mind Psalms 104. As man goes forth to do his work until the evening. Always remember that. Because now we can look at it and observe it the way that it's written, not the way that we think it's that somebody told us to observe it. So now, as we go in, and you started at the 9th day, at even, you start to afflict your soul, you start to fast. Then on the 10th day is a day of an atonement, and it's a Sabbath. You must abstain from all work.
And also, this is telling you, when he says work, when we go back to Genesis, and it says work, and we understood that work was from the morning to the evening, and between that time was the day, and that's the period of time where work was done. So when he says you shall celebrate your Sabbath, he's talking about the 10th day, that period of time where the sun is out and it's shining bright, you can do whatever you want to do. He's saying, abstain from work and afflict your soul.
So that's how we were to observe the Sabbath. That specific Sabbath day. It was a specific Sabbath day. He didn't say all the Sabbaths was like this. This is why he made so much emphasis on you must begin this on the evening on the 9th day and end it on the 10th day at evening. He made emphasis of that. He wouldn't have made any emphasis if that's not how we were to observe it. Or if that's just how we did it every day, any day, all day. He wouldn't even told us that. He would have just said started on the 10th day. Or start on the 9th day at evening. He wouldn't even have to tell us anything. So we got to keep in mind when we read and understand that when the Most High is making emphasis on something, we got to look at why is he telling us to do this. That's even when we go back to Passover. He told us to keep Passover starting at the evening, right? He told us to start the Passover at the evening time. Why? On the 14th day at evening. Why? The reason why is because they had to kill the lamb, because what was coming that night? Later that night, what was coming? So they had to kill it at that evening in order to be able to cover the doorposts before the death angel came. That's what we gotta understand that. It was always a reason why he told them to do a specific thing. And if he told them to start it at the evening, in order for him to get a full 7 days, he had to have them stop it on the 21st at the evening. In order for him to get a full week, full 7 days. We gotta always remember that. So the next thing we can touch on that a lot of people think about when we touch on
Nehemiah. When it talks about the most popular scripture that everybody quotes, I will lay hands on you. You know? So we're gonna go to that and we're gonna visit that, but we're gonna see really what they're saying when they're saying. But we'll just get to it and we'll see what they're actually saying, because a lot of people interpret that as, that's saying that's when we're supposed to observe the Sabbath. And that's proof that we observe the Sabbath at this time. So let's go to it. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 15.
Okay, so starting at verse 15, it says, in those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves and lading donkeys, also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them. I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals.
So, what we have to ask ourselves when we read this? What period of the time of day was this? What time could this be? Could this be at night when they coming in, trading, wine presses, etc.? No, this had to be the portion of time when daylight was out. It had to be.
They didn't have street lights like we did back then.
And this is kind of using, thinking Eastern, you know. So you can continue.
Okay. Start at verse 16. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that you do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our Elohim bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet you will bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And some of my servants said I at the gates that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
Okay. So we see right here where it says the key the term that they all go to, that everybody goes to when they say, oh, this is when we're supposed to observe the Sabbath. This is proof that we observe the Sabbath that evening. It says, and it came to pass that when the gates, in verse 19, it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates be shut and charged that they should not open until after the Sabbath. So now we got to start using, let's get logical here. So, what would be the purpose of a gate? The purpose of a gate would be to what? Protection. Would be to protect you from enemies, from anything outside of the nation. So, let's go to Joshua chapter 2. We'll go to Joshua chapter 2, and we'll go into this, and we're just going to see if this is the only thing, if they were the only people that shut their gates at night. So in Joshua chapter 2, verse 5, and it says, and it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate. So, just telling you right now, this is the time that they shut the gate. Any day. Right? And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that men went out. So, it's telling you right there, when it's dark, that's when they shut the gates. And that would be the only reason you would shut the gates, because it's dark and enemies can intrude at night. So, let's go back to Nehemiah 13. So, go back to Nehemiah 13, and we see. Let's go back to verse.
Let's go to verse
13. 19.
Verse 19, and it said, it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath. This is the same setting as we just read in Joshua. So we understood at night it was no light like how it was today. So they had to shut the gates for intruders, enemies. If you left your gates wide open at night, how easy would it be to come take over your city when you sleep? Think about that. So they had to shut the gates for protection. So when Nehemiah told them, shut the gates at night before the Sabbath, because why? When they woke up in the morning, it was going to be the Sabbath day.
Exactly.
This is when they were going to be trying to come in and sell. They wasn't selling it to them at night. They were selling them things in the day.
And let's keep reading.
Okay.
And it says, and some of my servants set I at the gates that there
Uh-huh.
should be no burden brought in on the Sabbath day. Now, when we go back up and we read in verse, I believe it was 15, and it says, in those days I saw Judah trading some wine presses on the Sabbath and bringing in sheaves and all this good stuff. When I asked, what period of time of the day could that have been? It wasn't at night. It was in the daytime. So when he's saying nothing shall be brought in on the daytime, that's what he's saying. So it's beginning to be dark. We're gonna shut the gates. We wake up in the morning when we go through that night, and the morning comes. The gates ain't open. We're not opening the gates.
For what?
So even going into the evening coming, they would not open the gates.
Because why?
Why would you open it at night?
What would be the purpose?
No purpose. So when would they open the gates? Go in another night and they'll open it on the first day in the morning. That's when they will open the gates.
So, yep. Speaking in today's terms, so-called Sunday morning. We know that wasn't what they went by, but so-called Sunday morning, if we just want to speak.
Yom Rishon.
Yom Rishon, the first day. Mm-hmm. So that's just another understanding that we're trying to bring as far as the Sabbath didn't start at night. This scripture is not breaking down that the Sabbath started at night. So, because this is not, it has too many holes in it. And when you clearly read and see what it says, it's not valid. So, the next thing we want to touch on would be a couple sources.
Okay. So it says, and so these sources, it says these are sources we're bringing out to further elaborate on what we're trying to say. So it says, in earlier traditions, a day apparently began at sunrise. And it gives scriptural references, which you can go to, other scriptural references which you can go to see why we start day at the time that we started.
When the sun rose.
Exactly. Later, its beginning was at sunset and its end at the following sunset. Mm-hmm. So it said later. That didn't say it said in earlier traditions, but then later it began at sunset. So we have to think about where in scripture did that change? Mm-hmm. Where did he say I'm changing the Sabbath day to this time now? And then to further go along, it says this system became normative, and it was still observed in Jewish tradition. We don't keep Jewish tradition. We're not Jewish. And where, for example, the Sabbath day begins on Friday evening at sunset and ends Saturday at sunset. And it's from the Oxford Companion to the Bible, page, I believe it's 74. 174. I mean 744. Okay, 744. I apologize. So we see that that's one source saying that the Friday evening to Saturday evening, that came later. They didn't start with that. So
exactly. So the next source that we want to bring out, this is coming from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. It says that the custom of reckoning the day as beginning in the evening and lasting until the following evening was probably of late origin. It's shown by the phrase "tarry all night" in Judges 19 through 6, verses 6 through 9. Judges chapter 19, verses 6 through 9. It says the context shows that the day is regarded as beginning of the morning. In the evening, the day declined, and until the new day morning arrived, it was necessary to tarry all night. Compared also with Numbers 11 verses 32.
So, some more sources. It says this is from it's from Delicious in Dillman's commentary on Genesis. I kind of hard to pronounce that. It says among the ancient Israelites, as among the Greeks, the day was reckoned from sunset to sunset. This was the custom also of the Gauls and the ancient Germans, and was probably connected originally with the cult of the moon. There is, however, evidence that this was not the custom at all times. And we're going to go to another one. The Handbook of Chronology. Uh, it says, page 8, it says, among the Greeks, the day was reckoned from sunset to sunset.
So we see that this was not our custom.
It's not our custom.
It wasn't our custom to observe a day at the night.
So let's go to some scriptures on why we say, well, not why we say, but why the scriptures are points out. We started out in the day, starting in the morning. So we'll go to Genesis 19. Genesis 19. Let's go.
Okay, Genesis chapter 19, verse 31. Okay, the firstborn, start at verse 31, and the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after all the manner of the earth. So just setting the tone for what's being talked about or what's being read right now is this is when the Most High had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot and his two daughters escaped. They escaped and they went to a far city, I think in Zor. And so basically in their minds, it was like the end of the world. There was no other humans left because that's all they know. So once they seen that was destroyed, their logic was, hey, there's nobody else that's going to be able to bear us children after this. So we want to keep our father's seed going. I mean, that's just what I don't know why they thought that, but it says, start at verse 32, come. This is what it said. It says, come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, and we will we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. That night. Remember, that night. So it's nighttime that he was drinking wine. And the firstborn that night went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not that she lay down, nor when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow. Remember, we had the word morrow is with boker or morning time. So on the morrow, it says that the firstborn, so the next day, the firstborn said unto the younger, behold, I lay yesternight, meaning yesterday night. So let us make him drink wine this night also. Hold on. So he said, yesterday night, he didn't even know that I lay with my father yesterday. He didn't know I laid with him yesterday night. That was a whole day ago. So this is a whole new day on the morrow. When it said on the morrow, that was a whole new day beginning. Because why? And then it says, this night. This was that morrow. So this night.
And remember, morrow will occur next morning.
The next morning. So now he said this. Now she said this night also. And go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not that she lay down, nor when she arose. So this is letting you know this is this is one night, The next morning they having this conversation. That same night, the second one went in. The second went in and did the same thing.
The day portion and the night portion of the day is connected. So you would start off with the morning, the morrow, and then you will go through the day, and then you go to the evening, and then that night is when they lay with the Father. Then the next morning is when the next day starts.
Exactly.
So, because it's saying the night is the same time as the day. It's not separating the two, because if the evening is supposed to start a new day, then it would have just said a while ago, or it just wouldn't use that terminology.
Exactly.
It wouldn't use the terminology. It's using terminology as in it's a whole new day.
Whole new day.
So let's go to another one. Let's go to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 19. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. So 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 10 and 11. And it reads on this wise. It says, therefore the men of Jabesh said, tomorrow we will come out unto you, and you shall do with us all that seemeth good to you. And it was so on the morrow. Remember what we read in the definitions. The morrow, meaning next morning. It says, on the morrow that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the host in the morning watch. The morning watch. And slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. So the morning started the new day. It's the heat of the day. It's probably around noon. Part of the hottest time of the day. It says, and it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. So let's go to Psalms 9. It's 1 Samuel 19. Let's go ahead and go to this one.
1 Samuel 19, starting verse 9.
Yep.
Okay. So we got 1 Samuel chapter 19, starting verses 9. It says, and the evil spirit from Elohim was upon Saul, as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand. And David played with his hand. And Saul sought to smite David, even to the wall with the javelin. But he slipped away out of Saul's presence. And he smote the javelin into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. That night, David escaped. That night. So let's remember this. Saul also sent messengers into David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. It says, and Michal, David's wife, Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, if thou save not thy life tonight. Remember, he escaped. Remember, he escaped that night. He escaped from Saul. So now his wife is telling him, hey, they just sent spies. They spying you out. They gonna kill you in the morning time. They're trying to kill you in the morning. So this is what she said. If you do not save, if you save not your life tonight, tomorrow, you shall be slain. When did Saul send the messengers to kill him? In the morning time. So his wife is telling him, hey, if you don't leave tonight, in the morning, tomorrow, you're going to be dead. This is a clear indication that night and morning. There's 2 totally different times. So we have to see, what's the cycle of the day? You got day, evening, night, morning. Day, evening, night, morning. It goes in that cycle. It goes in that cycle. So that was a whole other day. You can go back and read this. 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 9 through 11.
And so, and then just to finish that out, we can go to Psalms 104. We already read it earlier. Psalms 104. We're gonna start at verse 20. I'm just gonna reiterate the function that the Most High created all of us in. It says, "Thou makest darkness, and it is night, when all the beasts of the forest do creep forth, and the young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from Elohim. The sun ariseth, they gather themselves together, and they lay down in them in their dens. Man goeth forth unto his work, and to his labor until the evening." So we see right there, when the sun arises, the lions go lay down in their den, and then the morning comes, man goeth out to do his work until when? The evening. So
Exactly. So another source that I have, the next source that I have, it is Jack Feingan, the Handbook of Biblical Craniology. I believe it is page. Let me see. I believe it is page 7 through 8. It says, in the Old Testament, the earlier practice seems to have been to consider that the day began in the morning. In Genesis 19:34, for example, the morrow, ASV, or next day in the RSV, clearly begins with the morning after proceeding the night. Again, this is Jack Feingan, the Handbook of the Biblical Craniology, pages 7 through 8.
okay, and another source it says, "There can be no doubt that in pre-exilic times the Israelites reckoned the day from morning to morning. The day began with the dawn and closed with the end of the night following it." It says Jacob Zael Lauterbach, Rabbinic Essay, Cincinnati, Hebrew Union College Press, 1951, page 446. So now we're going to read some scriptures about Yeshua.
The world knows it's Jesus,
Mhm.
but his name is Yeshua.
And the connections, how he connected, speaking of us being connected with the day. So, John 8 and 12, it says, "When Yahushua spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of this world. Whosoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life."
Okay. Then you got John chapter 9, verses 4. John chapter 9, verses 4. While it is daytime, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming where no one can work. No one can work.
Mm-hmm.
While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. I'm the light of the world.
12, verse 46, "I have come into the world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should remain in darkness."
So the next one, John chapter 11, verses 9 through 10. Yeshua answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone walks in the daytime, he will not stumble, because he sees the light of this world."
Okay, we're going to go to 1 Thessalonians 5, 5, verse 5 through 6. "For you are all sons of the light and sons of the day." It says, "We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. So then, let us not sleep as others do, but let us remain awake and sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk at night." So it's making the distinction, right? That's when we sleep. So between evening and morning, we don't count it. They don't count that in Genesis. Why? 'Cause that's when we're supposed to be sleeping. So it's nothing really to be done.
And one of the sources that we brought out, which you can go back and look, it said it had ties with the occult moon, the moon occult, or moon occultism, or whatever. So they had ties with the moon. So then we could go into Romans 13, Romans 13 verses 12, chapter 13 verses 12. The night is nearly over. The day has drawn near. So let us lay aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us behave decently as in the daytime. The daytime. Why? Because everybody can see you.
Mm-hmm. Ephesians 5, verse 8. For you were sometimes darkness, but now are you light in Yah. Walk as children of the light. So those are scriptures, basically hitting home on why the Yahshua connecting us with the light. This is why. This is the reason we observe the Sabbath in the daytime, from morning to evening. That's when we observe the Sabbath.
And this is where we observe a day starting at sunrise. When the sun comes out, that's when we start to observe our day. When the day starts to go out, it's still that same day, but the day portion is now over. The 12-hour portion is now over. But some may say today, well, as daylight savings and all these things, hey, look, we're not here to tell you how you should do it and what you should do. What we're telling you simply is the scriptures tell us to observe the day portion of the Sabbath day. That's what the scriptures tell us to do. So you are, by any means, open to do what the Most High leads you to do. We don't hate you for it. We don't knock you for it. We still like you. We still love you. But at the end of the day, this is how the scriptures are revealed to us. And if there's any questions, you can reach us at rebirthokc@gmail.com. Again, rebirthokc@gmail.com. Shalom.